Let's get real. Are you ready? It's time. Welcome to Let's Get Real Chattin' with Catherine, the online chat show where we discuss everything physical, metaphysical, practical, magical, social, and political, and everything in between. This is an opportunity for guests to share their unique gifts, talents, insights, wisdom, and knowledge through this interview process with the listeners. We are not a medical advice show, so if you have a medical concern, please seek appropriate medical care. Please use discernment and decide for yourself if the information presented is for you. This is a production of Catherine Publishing exclusively. Copyright protected. No part may be altered or used or sold in any way without the written permission of Catherine Publishing. To find out how to sponsor a show, contact the publisher at cathpublish@wildroseinternet.ca. Okay, that should cover all the business end of the show. Now let's get real and have some fun.
This is a featured interview with Velva Silver-Hughes. She's been a guest on my radio show, so that you have the audio to listen to, but I thought it would be really nice to get acquainted with Velva Silver-Hughes face-to-face, and so that you have the opportunity to see the personality of the voice. And what I wanted to start with is to mention Velva book, and I've got it here. It's called Ancient Secrets of the Goddesses. It's an awesome book, but it's not just a book, it's a tool. And we're going to talk to Velva about this and much, much more. So, welcome Velva. Great to be with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Catherine. Thank you so much for taking the time to allow me to share the message that I need to share with other women and girls and all people around the planet. So thank you.
You're very welcome. So now you've just said something that kind of opens me up to questions. I'm just full of questions all the time. But when you say you felt you need to share this, So this brings me back to the beginning. You weren't born with this wisdom. This came to you in the process of your life journey. Can you tell us a bit about why do you feel that you have the need to share this?
Well, I began this journey about 5 years ago. Starting to write this book, I was working with a mentor that I had met at Angel Therapy Practitioner course in Kona, Hawaii. And I just knew that she was my mentor. I saw Doreen Virtue introduce her, and she said her name was Chris Marms. And I immediately knew that I needed to walk up to this woman, introduce myself to her, and ask her to be my mentor. Wow. And she was kind of surprised because I'm normally very shy. I normally would not do something so bold, but it was almost like spirit pushed me to have the confidence to go up to her and talk to her. And Doreen was talking about how Chris had an Atlantean healing bed, and she had worked on Doreen. And I had read Doreen's book, Angels and Goddesses and Angel Medicine, and she had talked about Chris in the book. And the funny thing is, when I look back in the book, I had actually earmarked the page that had Chris's name on it years ago. So it was pretty ironic that
there are no accidents, right? There are no accidents.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Yes, it was just beautiful. And so it started back then at that moment for me, and I'm still working with Chris. I talk to her once a month. And she had said to me, you're going to write a book about the goddesses. And I started sitting down, just writing my life experiences down, all the things that have happened to me and what I've healed. And in turn, I've developed the Goddess Healing Matrix system with Colette Barron-Reed had helped me bring together all of the works of this system. So I now certify practitioners. And I had done little workshops, one-day workshops, where I would work with women, and I saw the changes that this energy made to their lives. I saw, the changes, the healing. I saw them learn to speak their truth, and that's how it all began for me. It's really evolved very fast over the last 5 years for me.
So you could see that this was not just having an impact in your own personal life, but that there was a need for it. This women healing and becoming empowered themselves, that would sort of confirm the idea that this wasn't just a personal message. Because, you know, some people just, they get a personal, it's like for your own life, go on and do certain things in a certain way, but sometimes it is a message that comes through one person, but it's meant for many. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I definitely feel that way. When I started doing one-on-one healing sessions with women, I realized that some things that had happened to them, I had already worked through, you know, whether it was adoption, whether it was date rape, whether it was being bullied, whether it was losing a loved one and, you know, wondering how you were going to make it through that grief. I had realized that what I had and how I had healed myself, that I could share these divine tools with others, whether it was using crystals, meditations, connecting with the different goddesses. Yes, definitely. I mean, I feel I have done a lot of healing, and I truly want to share that with others who are willing to heal.
So when you began your process of writing the book and your wisdom with the crystals, because you work with crystals and you work with the energy and the divine feminine and all of that. So did it unfold, you know, step by step, or was it all you just sort of had this wisdom come to you? How did it unfold in your life to the, you know, because it's one thing to open up to your own healing and the connection to maybe the energy. But how did you, was it like the crystals came first or the goddess energy, or how did that sort of unfold for you?
So for me, I worked at the hospital in medical records for 15 years. So I had a scientific background. So I went to a psychic and she told me that I had healing hands. And of course, I didn't want to hear her at that time. But I knew I did not like my job. I had to drag myself out of bed to go to work. And so I started reading the spiritual books and learning about my chakras. And then I started realizing that I needed to do something. So I started taking my natural health practitioner diploma. Right. And I started with aromatherapy. That was the very first course I took, was aromatherapy, and then my European lymphatic drainage massage, and then reflexology, energy balancing. And that's when the crystals came into my life. I was actually given an exercise, which I talked about previously on the radio show, where I was to weigh the healing crystals before I placed them on the client that I was working on. So I had a food scale and I weighed them exactly down to the gram before I placed them on the chakras of my client. And I still have that scientific background, the medical knowledge, right? So I really still needed at that point in my life to have aha moments and to have proof, which we all know comes with trusting. So I put them on my client, and then as soon as I took them off and I put them on the food scale, I couldn't believe my eyes. I weighed these crystals over and over again because the client I was working on, she tended to carry a lot of emotional baggage in her heart chakra. And sure enough, the crystal that I had put on her heart chakra weighed a lot because that crystal had absorbed the energies that she had been storing in her heart. And so over
there
and
was
over
your
again,
scientific proof. There was your scientific proof, you know, that you needed. Like, I find that, isn't that true? The universe gives you what you need. Not everyone would need that, but for you, that was how your mind worked, and you needed that kind of confirmation.
Exactly. So really, I'm the type of person, I need to know something really well first before I share it with others. And so I got the Crystal Bible and I read through the whole book in one night. And it was almost like a remembering for me. It was like, oh, I know how to use these. I know what to do with these crystals. And so I started using them on my family and on my clients. So the crystals was very much the first thing for me, definitely.
Okay. So, and then as you continued on this journey, now you've learned some healing for yourself. You knew you didn't like your previous, or, you know, maybe that isn't even the right word. You didn't like your job, but more or less it wasn't fulfilling you.
That's right.
You know, it was so, and I think that's another sign from the universe that, you know, if you're in a position that you're you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not feeling joyful to get up in the morning, you're not excited about, because I'll tell you, this is one thing I've really discovered about this particular work that I'm doing right now is so fulfilling for me. I'm so joyful to get up in the morning, like, who am I going to talk to today? What questions am I going to, get into? Because I just loved, like, somebody called me the queen of the muddist because I love to stir the mud. And I thought, that is so me. That is so part of how I feel. Like, there's stuff underneath that calm, glassy lake. There's stuff underneath, and it's the mud. And so when you get to that, where you feel like it's another new day, another new opportunity, and you're in a job that is not giving you that, you're looking over somewhere else and seeing there is something else, and it gives you that little joyful thing. I mean, that's a key that not necessarily you have to quit your job today because you're not satisfied, but when it's a prolonged thing, right? You keep on getting pulled to something else. That's a good key, a good sign that maybe you should at least explore. And that's probably, what I got from you was that you started to look beyond what you already knew, stretch yourself, because crystals and goddess energy and all that kind of stuff, and even naturopathy is certainly not part of the mainstream. So for you to step in that direction would have taken some faith, some trust, and being at least curious enough to go there. So when you went to the naturopath sort of road, I'm correct about this, right?
Well, it's a natural health practitioner. It's not the same as a naturopath.
Okay. Well, could you explain that then?
Okay, so a naturopath, I believe, is like 5 years of schooling, and my diploma combines everything, like from crystals, reflexology, energy balancing, shiatsu, anything. So it's like a combination in 2 years of all these different modalities in one thing. So that would be the difference.
Okay, but naturopathy is what's this? I know that's not your specialty, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what is the naturopathy is working with herbs and that kind of stuff to heal the body, whereas what you're talking about is working with energy, crystals, and all those other modalities? Would that be
yes.
Also?
Yes.
So it's not just the length of time, but it is a bit of a different fork.
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right. So from there, you had that under your belt, and of course you were still searching then. So did you leave the medical profession behind at that point when you started to see these new avenues opening up?
Yeah, it took a lot of courage, I have to tell you, because I was so busy and working in all the rural hospitals. There's a need for our profession, and I had a good pension, I had a good wage, it was with the union, I had all these things, but I knew I actually was diagnosed with asthma, while I was working,
with
adult
what?
onset with asthma.
Oh,
Yeah, and so I realized my body was taking a toll on what I was doing. And I just heard this inner voice tell me, now is the time that you need to do this. And sure, I was going to be giving up a wage, and which I did. I mean, I worked for 2 years for free doing practicums on enough people to finish my courses. But I learned so much in those 2 years, so it's not all about money. It's like you say, you have to want to wake up and be passionate about your job. And the thing is, when you're passionate, it fulfills you to the very core. And you need to make sure that you have balance, that even though you're so passionate about your job, you still need to allow that time for your family, for your friends, for your mind. And I know what you're saying, because I'm the same way. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what can I do today? Who can I connect with? And it's beautiful to be at that spot, because there's so many people that dread going to their jobs every day. So
it's that curiosity of what wants to happen today. It's like, I'm here to play. And so what wants to evolve and open up, and what discoveries are there? It's like you're opening a new box every day, a new gift box, and what's inside. Ooh, there's a sense of childish glee in all of that. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of people that are seeking these these understandings, they want that joy in their life. And I do think that money is also important because we happen to live on a planet that uses money as an exchange. And so you can't, I mean, yes, you can live on love for a certain amount of time, but you do need to pay for, you know, especially in Canada, you know, we have cold weather and whatever. You need to heat your home. You need to pay for these things. You need to pay for the internet. You need to you know, whatever it is your job is, your food, your sustenance. So there needs to be an exchange. And I think that as we're evolving and more people are offering their skills as practitioners like you, there also has to be an understanding that it is no different than any other form of work, like anything we offer, because if you've done the work, especially you've put in your time, you've done your research. It's like we go to a lawyer, we're not paying them specifically for the weight of that actual time. We're paying them for their expertise, their learning, their wisdom. And I think we need to, it would be nice to get to the point where we actually see all wisdom as having that kind of value, that kind of exchange, you know, where there used to be people who were philosophers. That's all they did. I mean, they had their sustenance. They had their needs met. And I think that's an important point to make, is what you do, you love, you're helping other people, which is huge. And so there needs to be an exchange. And usually at this time on our planet, it's with money. Because a lot of people say the spiritual side of it, or that, you know, side of it, well, you can't have both. Well, that's part of the reason I think we don't have as many people offering these services, helping each other, is because we bought into that idea that you can't have both. And I don't see it that way at all. Do you?
No, I don't. And that's why I wanted to publish this book, because, you know, and a lot of the wisdom I found through my courses, that when I put my hands on people, I knew I had an ancient healing that was coming through my hands, and I had no idea. I had no training in it. So people were questioning my credentials. So I did go and take a Reiki course. So I told them I was doing Reiki because it eased their minds, because they had heard of the term Reiki. So when I started this Goddess Healing Matrix system, part of that program is when you're certified as a higher priestess, I actually have you meditate, and I have you channel what abilities you had in past lives to heal in this life. Because I feel we have all that information stored within us. We just need to allow it to come forth and allow our fears to be dissipated, so that energy can be, you know, running through our meridians and our acupressure points to heal ourselves and to heal others.
Yeah, I've heard everything that it's stored in the cell memory. Like we have certain things that are because we don't just have a physical body. We have these layers outside, you know, they call it the energy body, or the subtle bodies, or, you know, the oversoul. So we're much bigger than what we can see in the physical. So each one of those layers can store and hold memory. It could be the wisdom, but it can also be the pain. And that's what you're talking about, healing these maybe past life, historical, genetic imprints that have come through.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is we all have the ability to heal ourselves. And many of us in past lives have been doctors. We've been healers in all forms, whether it's using crystals, herbs, aromatherapy, whatever it may be. I think the days of having to, you know, have the title behind your name, for those of us that are light workers, are shifting. I believe that it is an honored profession, and there will be more and more people who are being called to be spiritually awakened and empowered from the divine, using the natural energies that we all have access to.
Well, I think it's really important for people to know their inner wisdom, to connect with that, and you know, just to a title or like, I find right now we've come to this place where we use one very broad paintbrush, and we color all people with it. You know, all lawyers are this, all doctors are this, these people are wise, and it's such a disservice to the individual, because there are very wise and, you know, authentic, good people in all these professions, but there are also people who haven't really done their homework, who aren't really well informed. And so it's the same thing with light workers and people who are channeling and people who are working with crystals. There are people who've done their work, people who have the gift, I'm going to say inherently, or it just comes to them, sort of like the healing that came to you, that became. But the truth is, you've already done the work, whether you did it in this lifetime or another. You did the work, and so you've earned it. You already are. You know, it's not like you just, you know, it just came to you, and you don't have an understanding, or should I say, when it came to you in this lifetime, in order to get your consciousness around it, you then did the work to make it part of this lifetime. Because that's the other thing that is a little confusing sometimes, is people will say, I wrote a very long article last night, and I'm going to have it on my website really soon. It's called Disempower to Empowerment to Enlightenment to Disempowered Again. Because I find what's happening is we're having people doing the same thing with energy workers and healers that they used to do with the doctor. You know, what did the doctor say? Then, you know, I have to follow what the doctor says. They gave up their power. And it's almost like they think it's a quick fix to go to an energy healer and have, you know, I can come to you, you can fix me. And then I go about having this wonderful, prosperous life. And what people are losing is the reality that you have to do the work. The person, like going to you, you've done the work, you're sharing with me tools and wisdom, and you might even be able to help me heal. But the reality is, even if this is my understanding, and you could confirm this or disagree, but if I come to you and I want something healed, or I feel like there's something in my body needs to be healed, I come to you, I present myself, and I say I want to be healed. But if I, at some level of my being, do not want to be healed, I won't heal. It has to come from me. Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally bang on. I mean, when I was doing my healing work, I had two people specifically that came to me and had cancer. She didn't know she had it, and I kept working on her sacral chakra around her uterus. And finally I said to her, you know what, there's a block here, and I think we need to deal with it. So she felt it too. She went to her doctor and pleaded with him to give her an ultrasound. And sure enough, it was the very tiny beginning of cancer. And so she had a hysterectomy. And then there was another lady who had cancer too, and she was very willing. So you're totally right. When you're very willing, it will show up, and I will be able to detect it and tell you. And sometimes we can even heal it before it gets, you know, into the full-blown stage. Where you can't, you know, return it.
And that brings it to another point of there, is that there's a place for both. There's a place for traditional medicine, and there's a place for energy medicine. And I've heard this many times, where an energy healer has detected something before our technology can, and it's really helped people's lives. So there's that, you know, it's not about throwing away everything we've known to embrace something new. It's about adding to it. You know,
it totally is. I totally believe that we need to use all the modalities. So the Eastern medicine, the Western medicine, and the energy workers. We need to use everything all together, you know, and we need to go swim with the dolphins when we're sick. We need to get into the ocean. We need to cleanse our aura. We need to connect with the healing abilities of these, you know, dimensional creatures of the dolphins. But you're totally right. I mean, I actually have put out there to the universe that I do not want to treat any clients that do not truly want to heal themselves. I only ask that those who are truly ready to look at their stuff at a very deep level come to me. Because I was so frustrated before when I was working with people, when they would come to me and say, okay, fix me. And then when they would come back again, I would say, okay, did you start meditating? Did you use your crystals? And they said no. And I thought, okay, then I don't want to work with you, because I really believe that you can heal yourself, but you have to be ready to do the work, because it is work. It's hard work to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to heal? Because usually it's very painful memories that we're going to dig up and go through and relive until we're ready to release those. So
Well,
it's not a lot of...
And also, isn't it that this is my understanding, is that this particular lifetime, we chose to come here, and most of us have had many, many lifetimes. But this is the one that we came to heal, to do the work, because we're helping the planet in the transition and raising the vibration and all that. And of course, this is not common. I mean, it's common in light workers, talking to the choir all the time. But I mean, in mainstream understandings, why are there so many people on the planet? Why are we, experiencing these certain things? Well, we chose this. And we chose to heal, but we can't, and each one of us, that this is really important, is that we each have that power. And it's only that you're ahead of us on the path. We're all walking down the same path, but you've done certain work, so you're up, further down the road, looking back and can say, here, take this path here, it's easier if you want, or, you can make it easier, you can facilitate my healing. But you cannot heal me.
Right. That's exactly it. It is, and my work is really about empowering you. So I want to give you the tools. I'll see you for a couple times, but then I want you to go out on your own, and I want you to do it yourself because you're capable of it. I don't want to be a guru per se, where you come to me over and over again. I want you to have the tools of empowerment to heal yourself. And I will guide you along the way. But when you're ready, I'll set you free to fly off on your own, because that's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, and your world is a better world the more people that are empowered and not dependent on you. I mean, that's the truth, right? Your world, and so the more you are able to help people to, yes, grow and they can help other people and so on and so on. I mean, with 7 billion of us, there has to be some that are going to teach, some of us that are going to learn, and some of us who are going to choose to not even look at this stuff, that came here for this lifetime, just want to see it happen, aren't interested at all. And I think we have to accept that. Not everybody wants to know. They don't want, they just, and it's not even about that they're being, burying their head in the sand kind of thing. I think some people just chose that this is what they want to do. And we have to respect that. But for those who... Pardon?
I totally agree with that. Like, we shouldn't judge others if they don't want to heal in this lifetime. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, we don't necessarily have to reinforce their belief that whatever they're doing is the only way. We don't have to reinforce. We don't have to agree with them, but we don't have to, we don't have to judge them. We don't have to make them wrong either, which is important. So we got a little bit off track, but so I'm looking at your book, sorry. But just because it's such a powerful tool. And so I'm just going to sort of go back to you started with you got out of the traditional medical profession. You started onto your path to taking modalities yourself, to the crystals and what do you call it again? It's natural.
It's a natural health practitioner diploma.
Right. Okay. Natural health practitioner diploma. And then you started working with the crystals, reflexology at that point. And then is that when you started writing the book, when the goddess energy started coming through you?
Well, I've been working with my mentor, Chris, beforehand, and she had told me, one of your life purposes is to bring information to others on the planet that not many people will be able to bring through. And so I sat there thinking, waiting for this big aha moment. And then Isis, the Egyptian goddess, I'd always been attracted to her, and I started reading about the goddesses. And then I just sat down one day and I thought, you know what, I know I can communicate with them. And so I just sat with my laptop and I'd ask a question, and then I would these thoughts would flow through my mind and I would just start channeling them. And the facts would all line up if I looked, on Google about the facts about, what are signs that Mother Mary is around, and, what exactly does Lakshmi do? And then I started really believing that I truly was channeling, because this information, when you're truly channeling, you're not really aware at the moment of what you're channeling. And I look back at my work and I would go, wow, where did this come from? This is amazing. Like, these words are so high vibrating and they're amazing words. And so I just slowly started compiling my book while working with my clients still and being mentored, by Chris. And then I connected with Colette Baron Reed, and she really reassured me. She said, I'll believe in you until you believe in yourself. And that's what those women have done for me is, they've held that vibration for me until I could get there, and
that's
so that's what I did.
Isn't it? Because, that's really important. It's because there's such a, with this being so new, it's not really new. It's really old, but this new awareness, there's not a lot of support. It's becoming more and more. And I'm certainly hoping that with my radio show, that I'm going to bring this wisdom to more people to in a safe way, so that they can not feel threatened and they can sort of explore and go, hey, maybe this isn't as woo-woo as I thought. Maybe it's not really out there. Maybe there's parts that sort of fit, because that's how it was for me too, is that, hey, there was a time when I thought, going to have tarot cards was way out there. And now, it's just a tool. It's just a tool. But it can be, when applied appropriately, it can be very powerful and very empowering to the person who takes it in and uses it for themselves. So from there, now the book, as I've said, people can get the book on your website, which is you say it. What's
my website is www.velvadawn.com, and I also have www.goddessgirlpower.com.
That's the other one that, and you're doing, I'm not sure when this video is going to come out, but I imagine these workshops are ongoing, that Goddess Girl Power workshops. I know you have one coming up very soon. And then after that, will there be more?
Yes, I actually am creating a series of 3 workshops for the Goddess Girls. So I will continue running those, forever, and
as long as they're needed.
That's right. And my goal is to expand internationally with these workshops, to go around the world and expand.
So they're for girls from 8 to 18, right?
Correct. Yep. 8 to 18. And if they can come with a mother or a grandma or an aunt or an older sister, that would be perfect.
Someone to support them on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
That's the other part of it, is that whole concept came out from an understanding that if we're going to change this world, our world, we need to start with younger people. We need to start with empowering them, because a lot of these young people actually have come in to the planet with they're a lot more open, they're a lot more sensitive than maybe perhaps of my generation or my parents' generation, because I know my parents' generation, I would say, they had developed what they called a thick skin. And they used to brag about it. Well, you need to thicken up your skin there. You're a baby. You're too sensitive. You're whatever. And really, I think they were closing off their connection to Source, and just accepting that's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been done. We do it this way in our family, or we do it this way in our gender, or whatever it is. And so they had, in some ways, they had very fulfilling lives based on that criteria. Did they fit into that norm? Did they, whereas my generation got very uncomfortable and didn't want to fit into that norm. And this next generation is just so much more open to the possibilities for themselves, for the planet, for the whole thing. But on top of that, they are more sensitive. And so is this course for the Goddess Girls, does that help young women to develop not a thick skin or closing off, but their own empowerment, their own sense of beingness. Is that what that is for?
Yes, it totally is. Like in this next workshop, we're going to be connecting with Anya, where I'm going to teach the girls how to bring the true joy vibration into everything they do in their life, whether it's schoolwork, their chores, whatever it may be. And then Athena is going to help them ignite the inner warrior, the warrior within. So when they're in a situation at school, at home, on the playground, at dance, maybe where they're being bullied, somebody's trying to diminish their light, they will know how to engage that energy to send love and protect themselves at the same time. And we'll also be working with the goddess Pele, which will teach girls to truly acknowledge what their passion is in life. So they'll know at an early age what their passion is, and they can follow that path and stay on it, which will allow them to grow and flourish and stay one with the connection of the divine.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I too am very sensitive. Many kids that come, they have many sensitivities to food, allergies, whatever it may be. And that is a sign that you are very sensitive and that you're very intuitive. And I teach them that it's normal to be this way, not to shut those centers down. And I teach them how to run the energy through their chakras. And I teach them how to clear their auric fields from any negative and lower energies, so they don't have to experience disease. They don't have to experience, attachments from other people. So
wow.
I'm giving them
That's a huge tool.
Yeah, it is.
It's the thought of being able to grow up without all of those things. I know, I was about, maybe 5 or 6 when I developed really bad weeping eczema on my hands, to the point where I could not even write. I'd go to school and I'd have a note from my mother saying, please don't make her write today. And they would be like, we'd rather not have her in the class, if she's going to be the exception. But I was in so much pain because I had weeping eczema, and so my hands were all swollen and bleeding. And, in those days we had wool leotards, and I used to rub them on until they'd bleed, and it was awful. But, I recognize now I was very sensitive to my environment, and not just to contact, but I was picking up on all the negative and turmoil going on in my environment. And I eventually outgrew it. But I think a lot of kids, we've been trained that if you don't fit, get some kind of medication so you can fit in that little tiny box. And we are starting to recognize that that's not the answer. Those boxes are never going to fit us again. We are so outgrown those little tiny boxes. Like, we really are. All of us have outgrown them. Some of us know it and some of us don't. And it's, if you can empower young people at that age, and especially if you can have the support of the mom or an aunt or big sister to go with them, to support them, like you said, to believe in them until they believed in themselves. I think that's so powerful for all of us, to have that, even one person to believe in you when you're not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing I do is I do mentorship with other women. And I just finished up 2 ladies this week that I've mentored for 8 weeks. And one of them, it's amazing to see their shift. The one girl, she actually did the illustrations for my coloring book, and she's from Australia.
Oh, wow.
And her name is Anna. And I said exactly that to her. I said, I will believe in you until you believe in yourself. And she said, nobody's ever believed in me. And I said, but I can see your potential. I see your true self, and I will be that person for you. And I've seen her shift, and I've seen her be empowered and step into who she truly is. And there's nothing that I'm more passionate about than watching that. There's nothing more satisfying than watching someone find that, something you can see within them. It's beautiful.
And it's such a gift to give that.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we can we don't think about it sometimes, that, we see something in someone and we don't say anything. And especially to children. Don't flatter them. Don't try to flatter them. Don't tell them they're, oh, what a pretty little girl, when darn well she doesn't feel that, or she's not that. you know, in society. I mean, of course, everyone is beautiful, but don't say things that really are not true, and it's only going to disempower them. But see that whatever is in them, everybody has things that they need cultivated. So you see it, say so. My God, you're good at coloring. My goodness, you're the most amazing singer I've ever heard. You know, I mean, because whatever it is, gives them that sense of uniqueness and their own gifts and what have you. But you mentioned it, your coloring book, and you mentioned this on the show the other day, and I'll tell you what, that got my interest. That is so exciting to me. So tell us about this coloring book that you created.
So when I started doing the Goddess Girl Power workshops, I went to order some products to sell, and there was coloring books for mermaids, you know, fairies, everything but goddesses. And then I heard, you need to make a coloring book for goddesses. And I thought, okay, who's going to do the illustrations? And then as I was working with Anna, I thought, you're the one to do the illustrations. So she did the illustrations and I did the channeling from the goddesses. And it's a very unique coloring book because it's 20 goddesses. And I've given a description, like Isis is an Egyptian goddess. And I actually took some paragraphs out of my book, Ancient Secrets of the Goddesses, and I actually put them on the page. And then at the end of each page, where the channelings are, the girls are given a key. So for Isis, they're given the key of balance. So what I see with the coloring book is they are going to receive healing and shifting as they're coloring this coloring book. It's not a normal coloring book.
So your energy flowed through, or the goddess energy flowed through into that vibration. Like we know that, I think, well, not everyone knows, but a lot of people realize now that energy just moves, and it's in your voice right now. When people are listening to this, there'll be people who will be affected by it, your vibration, if they're open to it, if it's right for them. A book or a crystal or whatever, you can actually, you know, I liken it to this, which is kind of an old thing, but I love to bake, and when I bake, I love to eat what I've baked too. And I'm not a big fan of everyone else's baking, but I love my own cooking. And I often wondered, and you know, I always had people, you know, comment on how good it was or whatever. And I realized that there was a whole process, especially when you're doing something that takes time, like making Danish or bread or buns or something like that. You've got your hands in it, you're thinking about who you're making it for, you're imagining them eating it. Your love is just pouring into whatever it is you're making. So that recipe, regardless of who else's recipe it was, it'll never be the same as the one you made with your energy. And so when they're eating it, they're actually picking up on that love that was put into it. And I think that's, you know, that's just a very simple thing, but I know there's power in that because I know I've tasted people's baking that didn't want to be baking it, that felt it was a job or it was a task that they didn't want to do. And you know what? It has no taste. It's amazing. It's just, it could be the same recipe, but the energy is whatever they put into it, which was perhaps anger maybe, or, you know, just, or not caring at all. So when you're doing a coloring book like that, and I'm sitting with my crayons and I'm coloring it, I'm picking up on the vibration that is you and the goddess energy that came through you. Is that a fair comparison?
That's exactly it. And, you know, I've done a lot of healing and done a lot of work. So when I'm channeling, I can hold a very high vibration of energy. And so that energy will actually go in. Yes, it goes into the book. So this is the cover of it.
Oh, nice. Keep it up there for a second there, if you wouldn't mind. Oh my goodness, the colors are so vibrant. That is beautiful, Velva Dawn.
The lady that did the cover is Sharon George, and she did the cover of my book. And so I thought it was very important to tie in one of the goddesses from the cover of my book for the coloring book. And the coloring book is actually called Ancient Gifts from the Goddesses. And it's not just for girls, it's for people of all ages. And it's a beautiful book.
I know, as soon as I heard about it, I said, I want one. Just to unleash your creativity, that part of you that just doesn't get access sometimes. And it's sometimes just doing something like that will open you up to all kinds of other creation in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's very healthy to use the sacral chakra for your creativity and just allowing, your inner child. So it's very important to honor that, because as adults, we tend to get busy and we forget about, honoring the inner child within us and allowing our creativity to come through. So yeah, very important.
What do you mean when you say you use your sacral chakra, or what? I didn't quite get. How would you do that? What would you do?
Okay.
The sacral chakra is just below your heart chakra, correct?
No, it's actually a couple inches above your root chakra.
Right. So solar plexus, I was talking about, right. Okay. All right. So how do you use that in relation to as you're coloring?
So as you're coloring, you're naturally engaging your inner child, because bringing color to the life of the book and just allowing your hand to flow, and allowing the energy to flow through it. So what I see with this coloring book is, as you're coloring, the energy from the goddesses in the book will flow through your hands up to your heart and then down to your sacral chakra, which is an orange center, and it's known for your sexuality, but also for your creativity. And so many adults shut that center down because they forget what they love to do. They forget to be a child once in a while. And, that's when disease can set in those organs in your hip area. So it's important to engage the energy of that orange chakra.
Well, even from the time even while you're still a child, people say, grow up. I mean, it's our society. I mean, don't be silly. And, I love to be silly anytime, anytime. In the most serious of times, I love to be silly just because it feels good. And that's something that we've really shut down as a society. We've created these little spaces where we can be silly, but, as a rule, we're promoted for being serious, and play is probably the most important thing. It's in the play that we will create our better world. So I'm excited about this, Velva Dawn, the coloring book, plus your primary book, The Ancient Secrets of the Goddesses, which people can get on your website. The coloring book, is it available now, or it's just coming out?
They're actually ready for me to pick up right now. So they are available on my website, www.velvadawn.com, and you can order yours, and I will even sign it if you order it from my website.
Awesome. Very cool. And the other thing which we talked about on the radio show, and people can go back and look at, there's several of them. They're on the Blog Talk Radio. They're on my website. But is you do have the crystals available and things like that, the tools. You have all that kind of stuff on your website for people to look at. This is a really exciting time to be alive, people. And I'm thrilled to have people like Velva Dawn willing to come forward, share what they know, and really you're giving your time, your effort to the greater good, which is just awesome. I mean, it really is. And there's so much more for us to discover and delve into, in which I'm really thankful that you've agreed to come onto my show a couple of times a month, and people can check my website for the times. But, Velva Dawn has been really generous with her time and her gifts, and willing to take calls from the listeners, and so with your questions and so on, to empower you, not to tell you what to do, not to, that's not what this is about. We are helping people to live better lives, because when people live better lives, we all benefit. So this is so exciting for me, and I really want to thank you for taking time to be with me today, and for us to be able to share all of this with the listeners and the viewers. Is there anything? We're just about out of time. This has been a really great interview, though. I've really enjoyed it. But is there anything else you would like to share, Velva Dawn, with the audience?
There is. If anyone's going to the I Can Do It events in Vancouver, which is coming up, or in Toronto, I actually will be there signing. I'm giving away 75 free books and signing them.
Wow.
So if you're going to be at I Can Do It, please stop by. I would love to connect with you and sign a book for you and meet you. It's all about connection for me. And I would love to hear your stories if you have a book. Please email me, any experiences that you have with the book, any healings. I love hearing those stories. So, yeah.
And also one other thing, which I think is kind of exciting, and I'm hoping you'll share it more on the show in the future shows, but you're going to a big Oprah's life class taping? When is that?
Yes. It is on April 16th in Toronto, and Oprah is doing one of her life classes there. So she sent us all questionnaires, and one of the questions was, do you know your life purpose, and are you following your life purpose? And I mean, I love Oprah. She's been a really big mentor for myself and for many people around the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what my goal is in this lifetime. If I can change the world like Oprah has, then I've lived my life. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to share the details with you when I get back.
I think it's going to be very exciting. Here's what I say to that. Nobody's going to change the world the way Oprah has, but you can have as big an impact by being who you are. I mean, I think that's the reality. There's no two of us that are alike. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 7 billion of us here. So, well, that has been just a fantastic interview, Velva Dawn. I absolutely thank you for being on Let's Get Real, Chatting with Catherine, and I look forward to our future working relationship and empowering the world. How wonderful.
Thank you, Catherine. Awesome. I really appreciate everything you're doing. You're a beautiful light worker, and thank you for sharing your voice and your wisdom with everyone.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. I sincerely hope that you have gained some wisdom or insight that will assist you in doing your part to create a world we can all live with and thrive. This is your host, Catherine Whelan Costen. You've been listening to Let's Get Real, Chatting with Catherine. Please feel free to go to the links on the sidebar to keep up to date through my Exquisite World website. Visit my page on Facebook